Hey everybody, this is Craig Cottle, the Director of Nature Reliance School, and this is part 2 of 2 in a short series where I review a tactical carbine class that I attended with Iron Sight Defense. Basically what I'm going to do now is go through what we did in class, give you my thoughts and considerations. Basically make sure that you understand I'm not a tactical guru. The thoughts and opinions that I'm giving you are those that are someone that's trying to get better at these skills. And so if you have anything that you'd like to add to what it is that I'm saying, then please add them to the comments below. And we really appreciate, if you have an educated opinion, then throw them in there. We really appreciate you helping our community of Nature Reliance School folks out, and really appreciate you doing that. So the class that I took was a tactical carbine CQB course under the instruction of Rodney Van Zant, the owner-operator of Iron Sight Defense, who he was assisted by a couple of his cadre who were fantastic throughout the whole class. They were there right along the rest of us, right in the midst of all the instructors were helping us through the whole thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my notes, tell you some of the things that that came about in this class, and then give you an idea. So that my hope is that you continue or start your training somewhere. And if you're not in our area, then find another instructor. But if you're remotely close to London, Kentucky, you need to check out Iron Sight Defense. So we started off the day with a safety discussion. And my take on the class was that it was, there were about 15 of us, I think. Yeah, there were about 15, 16 of us. Half of the people there had shot some, were moderately good at shooting and moving and communicating. The other half seemed like they were brand new. They all had weapons. It didn't appear as if anybody was shooting a borrowed weapon or anything of that nature. It appeared as if some of them were brand new to a class such as this, where you're shooting, moving, communicating, which is what I prefer people to do. Is they get out, and if you're brand new, set your ego aside, go get some training from somebody. Now, the safety brief was all the basic 4 points of firearm safety, so nothing new there, although it's important that we point those things out in a class, and I'm glad Rodney did that. So we then went into basically some stand and deliver, where we're standing at targets, and we worked on several things. We talked about optic zero and basically the offset, mechanical offset from your sight from the actual chamber of your rifle, and how that plays out at 25, 50, and 100 and farther out. So that was important, because basically what you were seeing was that when you're aiming really close quarters, then you're basically hitting low. And so, because you imagine your sight post, if you're just using your post, you're shooting a little bit low. So that was incredibly important. We then started going into some tactical versus tactical and emergency reloads. Tactical is when you have an opportunity to reload. Emergency is when you have to reload, your guns run empty or run dry. And so we discussed both, and we worked on both. So in that regard, what we did is we set our rifles and our handguns up to basically have one round in the chamber and an empty magazine, or maybe one round in the magazine. You run till you run empty, and then you had to reload and do some other things. And so the beauty of doing something like this is that you don't have to expend an inordinate amount of money on ammunition, because basically you're only shooting once, and then you're reloading and getting ready to get back on target. And so I've trained with a few other instructors, and every one of these guys do this. And if you haven't done that, you might not realize how important that is, to basically just load one magazine or one round in and have dummy rounds at different times as well. And then that manner, you don't have to use a ton of ammunition to get good training. So after we did that with the pistol, and we also did that with the rifle, we started doing that with both combined. So you had to have your rifle up, it runs dry, you go back to your handgun and you utilize it, it runs dry, and you had to do tactical and emergency reloads at different times. And so it was, if you've never done anything like that, it's an exceptionally good practice to not have to expend a tremendous amount of rounds, ammunition, and you get really good practice in with the whole only one round in the magazine, maybe 2 or 3 rounds in the magazine. We then moved into shooting from cover, And again, the first part of this was basically we had stationary targets. They were the tactical stationary man-sized targets that we were shooting at just 7 yards. And so then we had some of the blue barrels that you'll see on a lot of courses, and it was told us by our instructors that you can assume that those barrels extend all the way to the sky, and so it's not like you could shoot over the barrels. You basically had to use the barrels as walls. And so we then moved from cover to cover, shooting, transitioning at the same time. Some of the targets were directly in front of us, were the targets we had already been shooting. Others were farther away, maybe 20, 25 yards in the woods. They were still targets, so you got immediate feedback as to whether you were hitting or not. And we were trained to shoot until the threat was neutralized, like we always should be. And so we wanted to make sure that we were hitting the target. So if you were missing the target, you had to keep shooting until you hit the target. And so that was a fantastic way to get that message across. The next portion was the portion where we did a whole lot of shoot, moving, and communicate. And in this section, we had partners and we were shooting and moving and communicating with cover. And so we basically had to cover one another as another moved, and we had to do both tactical and emergency reloads during the process. And so you can see from my perspective, again, I'm a new guy to this type of training, so help me out, put any comments down that you think would be helpful. For a new guy, the stress is basically raising higher and higher and higher. The stress is there. It's still a safe zone. It's still safe. The instructors were incredibly focused in on us, making sure we stayed safe. No one that I saw had an excessive amount of unsafe issues. If you go to any of these classes, there might be one or two throughout the class. Matter of fact, I saw one gentleman that started to raise his rifle in an unsafe manner, and man, it was slapped down, knocked to the ground, and he wasn't scolded as much as he was directly encouraged not to ever do that again. And so that was an opportunity for somebody that was new to learn a lesson in a good way that I'm sure he'll never forget. The next section of class, what we did is Rodney's got an old, I think he said it was a Topaz that's sitting out on there. It's in a, who knows what it was, some little car. But basically the thought process was that you have a car and you want to utilize it for cover. Cover and concealment are two different things. Concealment is where you're not seen, but somebody can actually shoot through something. And then cover is where you actually have the ability to be covered. If somebody's shooting rounds at you, you don't get hit. Now on a car, there's not much cover, basically the engine block. Everything else is just concealment. I mean, it's going to be real easy for rounds to go straight through a car. And so we worked on that. Basically what we did in this section was we stepped it up several different ways. First, we started just shooting from the car, where we had to shoot around the edges of the car, over the car, and stuff of that nature. Then we stepped it up beyond that, where basically we had our handgun and our rifle was in the trunk or in the back seat, whatever we chose, and we put them there. And so something bad happened, we had to disengage from the car, get out, take an opportunity to provide ourselves cover or take down a bad guy, and then retrieve our rifle from the car, which I thought was fantastic training. It was beautiful in that we learned a lot about, where you store your rifle, how you should store your rifle, and stuff of that nature. We then stepped it up where we started working in pairs with a car, where we had a teammate, and we did it where basically one person was under a threat, had to engage targets behind him and then fight back to the car. Somebody was then at the car. Sometimes that person was in the car and that person had to come out, and you could utilize the team method to defend yourself, and then we had to remove ourselves from the situation. The next section, what we did was we had somebody that was in the car who was pretending to be Josh, one of the instructors, who was pretending to be a family member, which ended up being pretty funny. But basically what we had to do was we got contact, we had to address the contact, we had to get the person that was in the car to us so that we could communicate effectively with them, get them out of the car. Remember, car is concealment, it's not cover. Get them out of the car so we can remove ourselves from the situation. And in that process, we had to get our rifles from the car and engage the targets and then leave. The next section, what we did, the instructor set up basically a room. And so we had bad guys in the room, but we didn't know where they were, and we had to make our way basically where we had plenty of room outside. We could walk around and look into a doorway. And again, I don't want to give all the secrets away because I want you to go to the class, but basically we had to clear this room in such a way that we didn't have to enter the room. And then we had to clear it again in a situation where we had to go in the room. and then we cleared it with teammates. And so basically what we had to do was go solo. We don't have to enter the room, bad guys in the room. And again, then solo where we have to go in the room. And then it extended on where we went into the room, found other doors, had to clean and clear the other doors. And so basically in this situation, and this is again why I'm not going to give all the secrets away of the class, I want you to take the class, is there were shoot and no shoot individuals inside the room. And so you had to very quickly determine under stress who was in the room in such a manner that you didn't want to shoot any good guys, you wanted to take out the bad guys. So just a fantastic exercise that we did there. So I think that for the most part covers the high points of the class. Again, you know, I don't know how many minutes of discussion I've just given you, but it was a 10-hour class. So I hope that provides you with an understanding that there was a ton of information in the class. Ended up shooting around 400 rounds of rifle and about 250 rounds of handgun. Again, as far as the class is concerned, I felt like I came away with a ton of information for somebody like me that's new to this type of process. And again, it was affordable. It's not something I can do every week. I can't afford to do that on a regular basis even. However, the class fee is just, compared to everybody else, it's ridiculous how inexpensive the class is. And it's not because he's a poor instructor. Rodney's a fantastic instructor. The guys that come with him are fantastic instructors. I dare say there's nobody that could not go and train with this cadre of guys and come away not feeling like they've gotten a good amount of information, unless you're already an operator. I mean, a hardcore operator, obviously. So with that said, if you're new to shooting or if you have moderate skill, I highly recommend Carbine rifle CQB class. Matter of fact, that's the only one that I've taken with Rodney so far, other than we did tactical survival together and I studied that section with him. Both times I found Rodney to be open, honest, direct when he needed to be direct, soft when he needed to be soft, and in that manner I highly recommend Iron Sight Defense. So with that said, check out Iron Sight Defense. I'll have links below so you can check them out. Concealed carry permit classes, handgun classes, rifle classes, assault classes, tactical survival. We've got that coming up. Rodney and I will be teaching that together in September. Again, this was fighting rifle CQB, and so highly recommend you check out Iron Sight Defense if you have any interest in doing these sort of classes. And again, not to get on some political soapbox or anything of that nature, the classes, and one of the beauties that I love about training with Rodney is that he in essence works for the government. Okay, let's be straight about that. He works for the government. He's not anti-government at all. He doesn't want to teach people to be anti-government. He's not interested at all. He's very focused in on making sure he's teaching law-abiding citizens only, and so we highly recommend that you seek him out for instruction. Again, not trying to get in political discussion, but we have a right to have these weapons, and if you're going to have these weapons, my personal opinion, and I'm not speaking for anybody other than myself, is that one of the things that happened early on in the founding of this country is dads regularly trained their sons and daughters how to shoot. And that is why we had a safe country for a very long time. Personally, I think we're getting away from that. I think we still have access to guns, same guns, and people aren't taking the time to teach other people how to utilize these weapons safely and store them safely and stuff of that manner. I'm not saying that's the problem. I mean, we've got a bunch of sickos. Anybody that's going to go around shooting other individuals is an idiot. Shooting individuals just for kicks or whatever. It's ridiculously stupid what these insane psychotic people are doing. So if they're going to continue to be in the world, then I want to be in the world, and if I'm going to be in the world, I want to be able to safely be able to defend myself and my family. And so if you're of that mindset, check out Iron Sight Defense. Come on, join in. Let's learn together.